Welcome to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast. I'm your host, Mary Roberts. I'm a certified anesthesiologist assistant living and working outside of Kansas City, Missouri. I created this podcast to give CAAs across the nation a place to come together and awaken to our profession's unique ability to create a life by design rather than default. That process can start by simply listening and engaging with this podcast. By doing so, you're already changing what's possible for CAAs, for you, for me, for all of us. I'm so thankful you're here. Let's jump into this episode and see what we can do together. Hello, everyone. This is Mary Jean, and you have tuned in to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast. If you clicked on the link to this episode through our Awakened Anesthetist August newsletter, I'm really grateful that the link worked, and welcome. Those newsletters are something I'm having fun with and something I'm hoping will build our national CAA community and lines of communication. And I'm just really enjoying putting those together and sending those out. If you have not yet signed up for that newsletter, you can find a link in the show description on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this episode right now. I actually haven't been in our podcast studio, which is my husband's closet in our house, for quite some time. I recorded the last 2 episodes, part 1 of my CAA journey from full-time to part-time, and then part 2. I recorded those all the way back in December of 2021. And if you've not yet listened to those episodes, I encourage you to go back because they hopefully serve as 2 examples of what I would like this podcast to be for our CAA community. I, of course, have a lot of ideas, and if you look in the feed, you can see that I've got some meditations and some mindfulness practices for practicing CAAs, some for CAA students. I have some content specifically directed towards my UMKC Masters of Science in Anesthesia students here in Kansas City. But in this episode, I wanted to share, I guess, a dream that I've had and something that I've just really wanted to do that I'm just going to start doing. And this episode is about announcing that I will be interviewing a CAA once a month. And I have some plans and some CAAs already lined up to interview over the coming months. But this is really a call to action for anyone out there listening or anyone who has a CAA friend who you feel like has a unique story or a unique perspective on what it means to be a CAA, to live as a CAA, to work as a CAA, or perhaps they have a unique journey to become a CAA. Anything you think that is a little out of the ordinary, or maybe extremely ordinary, that you think warrants an episode and a discussion and sharing of their journey with our CAA community. Just to give some examples of things I'm already thinking about, I have plans to interview a fresh out of school, just started working CAA. I have plans to interview one of the longest working CAAs about to retire CAAs. So hearing that journey and sort of the evolution of a long career. I would love to interview someone who is a new mom and is going back to work or has decided to change up what it means to be a CAA, or a new dad for that matter. I would love to speak with a CAA who maybe does locums full-time or has a little different practice setup. Maybe they're doing all regional or a bunch of regional every day and not a whole bunch of general cases. Somebody who works in a big hospital, someone who works in a small rural hospital. Honestly, I could go on and on, but hopefully you have a sense of the stories that I think would really help us connect some dots and start to expand our idea of what's possible for each of us by hearing what other people have made possible for themselves. And I know that something that brings me joy is to hear another person's story, and in particular, a CAA story of where they came from and how they got here and what they're doing now that they're here. And I know how expansive hearing another story has been in my own journey. And I shared a little bit of that in part 1 and part 2 of my journey, just how hearing other people's stories that seemed similar to the one that I was on, or it seemed like the path I would rather be on, was really expansive to me and allowed me to imagine that there could be another option for me or a different path for me. And it was really a see to believe sort of experience. And I think that that was really valuable and super important on my journey. And I'm not sure I would be where I am today, living my dream job and my dream life, working 2 days a week, if I hadn't heard some of those stories from like-minded people. And so that's what this interview series is going to be. I have created a little submission form that you can find in the show description or the show notes. Whatever podcast platform you're listening to has those, and you will be able to click on a link and use the submission form, which is just a Google Doc, to give me your idea, your story, why you think it's valuable, or potentially nominate someone else to share their story. And then I can start the process of contacting you or them and see if it would be a good fit. I think podcasting is really fun. I love hearing people's stories. I think this could be really expansive for our CAA community and just a place for me to start doing something I love and do it with the people that I'm most interested in talking to, and a profession that I'm really passionate about helping to expand. And this is my next step. So if anything I've said has resonated, or you enjoyed part 1 and part 2 of my journey and are kind of thinking, hey, it might be interesting if I shared my story, I'd love if you would click on the link in the show description in this episode on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast. And you can also, in that show description, find the Awakened Anesthetist newsletter sign up. You can find my email address, which is awakenedanesthetist@gmail.com. Contact me and we can start the process. That's all for today. I hope everyone is having a good work week. I can tell that you guys have enjoyed listening to my 2 episodes just by, the back end numbers. I can see that you guys are clicking on things and listening, and I really appreciate that, because this is all just a new passion project for me, and, I'm just seeing where it all goes and having fun with it as part of my journey. So I will have the first episode in this interview series out in September, and there will be a link in the September Awakened Anesthetist newsletter, or you can always just follow the Awakened Anesthetist podcast on the podcast app you're listening, and that will be automatically downloaded in your feed when the interview releases in September. I'm so grateful you guys are here listening. If you want to support me or the show, it really helps a lot if you guys leave a message or a review of the podcast, letting other CAAs or anesthesia professionals know what you think about the show and if you think it's valuable and why you like to listen. I would really appreciate that. And it's going to help our CAA community grow faster and wider in the connections we're making. All right, everyone, remember, you deserve to feel good behind the drapes. Till next time.